Hey guys, Disloader Magic here, and everybody playing Arena is trying to figure out the same thing. It's what is the exact meaning behind one simple sentence written by the developers back in July. They stated, as part of the July changelog, free play will be matching players based on a combination of their rank as well as how strong their deck is. And that's it. That is the entirety of the statement. So what do they mean by how strong the deck is? Now, let me just say, before the reset and before rotation, I was winning easily 80% of my games, probably 90. Now, should that have happened? Probably not, but that's because they use the same math, as far as I can tell, as they do now, or at least something similar for the ranking, where if you win 75% of your games, but then every time you lose one, you're gonna get de-leveled by like triple for some reason. I don't know why that is. I mean, worldwide, 50% of people have to win and 50% of people have to lose. So if you weigh losses more heavily, then everyone's going to find it impossible to progress in any way, except for somebody who's winning like 90 to 95% of the time. They would probably make it to high silver or gold. And before rotation, I was high silver and gold, but every time I got into gold, then it was like, okay, I'm playing my tier 1 against everybody else's tier 1, and it was closer to 50-50, but isn't that the point? Level somebody up in their tier until they're playing with their peers and they win about 50% of the time and then hold them there? They said something to contradict that a little bit later, but basically yes. So why the heck would they throw in this alleged deck power to screw with it? And I will tell you, it is 100% accurate what they're saying here. When we'll say bronze tier 3, which is my average right now, which is funny because I'm winning more than I'm losing. But if I take one of my top 3 decks, which I think all 3 of them could easily be considered tier 1, just with the sheer power of them. And they're not completely unknown in the meta, it's my own spin on them, but they're very good. So if I play those while we'll just say bronze level 3, I will always go up against somebody who's level 2 or 1, every single time. I mean, once in a while it'll be somebody my exact level, but they'll be playing some hyper powerful deck. So clearly they are correct about it coming into play. And it's not just, oh, they have something against me because of my win rate or the number of coins I won in the day or the number of wins I got or whatever. I tried the opposite. If I build some stupid gimmicky deck that I'm kind of testing or it's kind of fun or it's not very serious or whatever, like I built it and then lost like 3 straight with it, my opponents will be like people running welcome decks or whatever, and just people like 2 ranks below me, unranked, you know, the little grayed out symbol. So it is your rank plus deck power, and they even reiterated that later somewhere in this post. So if it does work, how is it measured? Because I would say, yes, these are my best decks. Okay, they're putting me up against harder people. These are my worst decks, and they're putting me up against people who aren't as good with decks that aren't as good. Well, before we get into what the heck it means, why would they have implemented a system like this? And the only thing I can think of, it has some merit to it, but overall, I hate this system and it needs to go. It's complete and utter horse crap. I think it's because, let's say I'm a very experienced player. Yeah, let's just pretend that for a second. Expert deck builder, been playing Magic for a long time, take it seriously, and I'm very highly competitive. I've got one deck that's absolutely killer and it gets me to silver tier 4. Cool, now I get sick of it and I want to build a new deck, or I just have an idea for a deck, I want to try it out. So I build it, and I go up against the toughest of the tough in the game with my brand new deck. That's probably 6 wildcards away from being finished because I'm not going to invest wildcards in it before it's done. Well, that'll be fun. It'll make me artificially want to give up on the deck if I don't realize what's happening, which, I mean, why wouldn't I as a player? I'd be like, oh, I'm going up against silver people with this brand new deck. Maybe that's a factor. So what I would have done is put in a testing mode or an unranked mode. Just flip a little switch and just say, put me into completely unranked. Whatever the result of this match is, don't level me up, don't level me down. I'm just testing the deck. And then just throw people into free play. It wouldn't matter. Like, they wouldn't need their own queue, because then who knows who you get matched up against. That would be weird. But I would have made an unranked testing mode, and honestly, the game still needs that, and it would be very easy to implement it. That would be the solution, so that at least if you're losing and the matchmaking is based on your tier level, skill level, whatever you want to call it, status, at least you'd realize it, but you wouldn't care. You'd be like going into it expecting the deck to not work until you fine-tune it a little bit, maybe come up with some new ideas and whatever. So this new system is basically, okay, this deck is a complete unknown, or maybe it was just built and it has 1 loss, so it has a 100% loss rate. Let's match him up against like 2 huge steps down from who he normally plays against. So I assume that's what they were going for, and also they're trying to prevent complete blowouts. So I might as well find their statement about that, where they said they don't want it to be 50-50 all of the time because that's boring. You know what? I can't find the statement. It probably wasn't even in this post, but somewhere, somehow, the developers had said something like they aren't striving for exactly 50-50 perfectly, where every single opponent is at your exact skill level with your exact deck power. They said they're happy to let it drift a little bit because it's just closer to real Magic or something like that. It just, you'd feel like, wow, I can never win. I can never get any better, because if I do get better, they'll just put me up against better people and there's no point. Like, no matter how crappy I play and how crappy my deck is, it's always going to be exactly matched and 50-50. They just said like players didn't respond well to that, or they thought it wouldn't be a good idea, it wouldn't be as enjoyable. So I think they said they'd let it drift as much as like 70-30 or something like that. Like their anticipated win rate. And I think they said that equates to 2 ranks or something like that. I really wish I could find this post. I don't know, it's somewhere else on the forum and I'm too lazy to look for it. So anyway, that's the why, that's the theory behind it. Okay, I get it, there's some logic, it's not just a mistake, but I still hate it, and like I said, it needs to go. They need to just have a free play mode to test decks, and then your rank is your rank. If you want to switch decks and you know that deck is 10% worse, get ready to get deranked. It is what it is. If you're so obsessed with winning and your rank and showing off to everybody, then only play the number 1 best deck. Or you could actually have fun and not care about your rank. I mean, if a deck is winning too much, then rank me up until I stop winning with it. It's really simple. This is how other games work. This is not completely unprecedented. So my theory in the last video about how Arena basically cheats you and rigs you, it was just the win rate of the deck. Plain and simple. And I have some very strong evidence supporting this theory that that's all there was to it from other people who experimented with it and my own testing. Shout out to Cinder Shadow, who did a lot of this research. He and a ton of other people found out that if you delete a deck and then rebuild it, especially if it's a couple cards different, or even if you change a certain number of cards within the same deck, the system seems to be convinced that it's a brand new deck, and it'll stop pairing you up against like really tough people if you have an enormous win rate. So basically, it would wipe the win rate and convince the system that it's a brand new deck. From what I've heard, just from people I asked, like people on my Discord and stuff, oh my gosh, did people abuse this? Like people every morning would like delete every deck and re-import it. Now I've been testing this all week. I can tell you now with pretty high certainty that no longer works. Well, at the very least, exporting a deck, deleting it, importing it, and then naming it something different, but leaving it card for card the same. So either they have a similarity algorithm where they're like, oh, that's that deck, and they reassign the instance and reassign it its old power level and its old win rate, or there's something more to it. And that's what I think. I mean, it would be easier programmatically to just patch the old system to get rid of the exploit that people were using. That would be real simple. Like if they import a deck that's 95% similar to another one, just attach it to that one and assume it's the same deck. And I didn't experiment with thresholds of differentness because my decks are the way they are. I'm not going to swap out 4 cards and play with them that way. That's stupid. How long would you have to go on with it that way? What happens if you revert it later? How long does it check for? How many revisions will it go back to compare to? I mean, it would take a month, and I'm not willing to put in that much effort. So there's something more to it. So like I said, it could just be a similarity engine, and that's that. And that's all there is to it. But assuming that's not the case, I've had people propose other theories, especially my comment sections on these videos, so thanks to everybody who did that. People have proposed other things. Number of rares. Or mythics, because theoretically more mythics and more rares would mean a more powerful deck. I mean, that's not exactly true. There are some garbage mythics, and some people play with them. I mean, even garbage rares, duh, tons of them. But they legitimately could just say, this has more mythics and rares total. I'm going to make an assumption that's a better deck. But then also, like they even admitted, they mix it with your actual ranking, like bronze tier 1 or whatever. It's a hybrid between that and deck power, so it wouldn't just completely run away with deck power. I don't think that's even the majority of it. I think that's just how they tweak it up or down from there. Someone else proposed something that is similar and it kind of makes sense, but it seems really like iffy. It's how many wild cards did you redeem to put into that deck? Well, what the hell's the difference? I mean, like, and who says you're correct about the card? Maybe you unlock a card with a wild card and you're like, you know what, this isn't working out, I need to lower the curve. You take it right back out. I mean, just because you redeemed a wild card, I mean, there's some implied, like, confidence that it's an improvement to your deck because you're burning a wild card on it, but I mean, what's the difference between a wild card and, oh, I just pulled it out of a pack, lucky me, and then you throw it in? It could still be, you know, Nicol Bolas. My 2 copies of Nicol Bolas I pulled out of packs. But if I were to just step back and analyze the logic of this, I would say, yeah, my best decks probably had the most wild cards redeemed on the building screen for them. But also, that's blatantly exploitable. I mean, you would just have some dummy 200 card who cares deck that you never actually play with, that's 5 colors, open that up on the screen, redeem a wild card in it, add it to the deck, immediately close the deck, go to the deck you actually want to redeem the wild card for. Since it's already redeemed, just add it to the deck, ta-da, and that would fool the system. So I think, like, maybe they thought security through obscurity, they wouldn't, like, the players wouldn't be able to figure that out. And if that's the case, you're welcome. And I mean, okay, it doesn't fail to directly imply worth and upgradedness, but it's so soft logic and fuzzy. And what if you just got lucky and pulled good cards out of a pack? I mean, it really just comes down to that. So the other thing is kind of in between. How many power cards does it have? Maybe they have just like a couple cards that are rated like, okay, this is a really good card. If somebody's running this, then this is a good deck. And the most 100% accurate, 100% provable way to calculate this would be for sure the dual lands, like the actually good ones, the rare ones. Look at my Cursed Wave deck. I believe I'm running 15 dual lands that are all rare. Now, this is mathematical fact. The deck would be worse if I just used the crappy free come in tapped ones in the gates. The entire deck would play bare minimum one entire turn behind someone running the same deck but with dual lands. Of course, ignoring who went first. Well, I should just say, in an alternate universe where I'm playing with it with dual lands, I would be one turn ahead. So maybe they're just like, okay, how many dual lands are in there? Okay, that's 1 point apiece. How many copies of Planeswalkers? Because Planeswalkers are just powerful, right? Okay, add 1 point for every Planeswalker. It seems like it would be hard to maintain it. You have to tune it, and the developers would have to know not just about software and fairness and math and probability, but like the standard meta, what cards are good. Or would they? As a programmer, here's how I would do it. You know how TCG Player has this thing called an API, an application programming interface, or something like that? It lets people grab prices from their database using just lines of code, usually JavaScript or something. There could even be functions to grab like an entire XML dump or CSV or whatever, doesn't matter. And it would just be like basically a query, maybe with a limit. And so basically they would have something called a scraper that every 24 hours would just make one giant request, get all the prices, and there you go. Now I'm going to take a wild guess that because server bandwidth and storage and access time and database performance isn't free, to get an API key, you probably have to sign a little terms and conditions thing that says, I will state that these prices are from TCG Player and put a link back to your website, kind of as like a mini advertisement, not like an actual sponsorship, just like, everybody sees them all over the web and it's notoriety and there's a little benefit there. That's how they'll get the money out of people using their API for free. Since that's what I've seen basically everywhere, I'm going to take a wild guess that's the case. So assuming that Wizards of the Coast development team would just be violating the terms of that and hoping not to get caught, if it was me, I would implement a 24-hour scraper that checks all the prices and just assume a higher price card is a better, more powerful card. Not always the case, but I mean, just think about the sheer accuracy of that. It would be pretty damn accurate. So what they could do is every time you save a deck, they just do an API call and check the price of the deck. Literally the power level of the deck is how much does it cost. Now, that's not perfect because 3-color decks would always cost more than 2-color decks in general. Just because they need more mana fixing doesn't mean they're better. But then again, 3-color decks typically are better because they have more answers and they tend to just run the best of with 50% bigger of a pool. I mean, if you have 2-color versus 3, you added a color, you added 50% more colors, 50% more possible cards. So it's not 100% perfect. It's not the best way to measure it. I mean, you could probably build a $500 deck that's absolute garbage, but you'd almost have to be like trying to. So assuming most people know what they're doing and they're not going to build some like jank Phoenix deck that can't win crap, I would say the individual price of a deck would probably be a pretty darn good way to measure its power level, honestly. And if it's not 100% correct, at least it would be close. So the two things that would poke giant holes in this theory are, one, I'm pretty sure that would be an illegal use of their API, but whatever. What are they going to do? Kick Wizards of the Coast off of their API? Are you kidding me? That's what you want to do. Piss them off for that tiny amount of bandwidth. Especially if it's a once daily scrape of just standard and then they just hold the numbers in their own database. But the second thing is, allegedly, nobody at Wizards of the Coast, all staff members in all divisions are very much aware that they are not allowed to in any way acknowledge a value of singles on the secondary market because then they could get sued for card quality and gambling violations. They have to keep pretending, or as I like to call it, lying, and stating to all government agencies everywhere that the value of a 100% non-variable product like Commander is the assembly of the deck. It's not the actual cards, it's not the singles, it's the deck list and the ability to play with the product as a whole. It's not some loophole, it's not unprecedented. I mean, you don't say, oh, this painting is only worth what the paint costs. No, it's the method and the direction that you put the paint on the canvas that makes the artwork. So any creative piece, an art piece, something like that, that is the value, is how it's arranged and the work that went into arranging it, the math behind it, the playability, the balance, all that other stuff. The enjoyability of the artwork. I mean, you could hide behind any one of these and you'd be good. But as soon as they make one statement saying, hey, and if you sell these singles on the secondary market, whoa, you're admitting that these have value, that the individual cards have value, and that when somebody chooses them at random, they're getting a higher or lower value, like a provable, backable monetary value? Oh, that's called gambling. This is why you can't just hide behind the currency exchange loophole, which was very popular like 20 years ago. You have people buy virtual chips, V-chips. $100 equals 100 V-chips. Oh, and then you can gamble online with it, but the V-chips have no value. In fact, they signed a terms of service that's similar to like World of Warcraft, where you don't own your World of Warcraft gold. It's all on our server. We own it all. Oh, but also, by the way, you can cash out the V-chips for $1 a piece with us directly. Yeah, that's not a loophole. People tried this and they got busted real quick. So you can't just say, oh no, the cards are valueless because we say they are. You have to like really stick to that narrative. And also, if you're like, well, this card would be graded lower because it's curled at 30 freaking degrees and nobody in their right mind would grade this near mint, whereas near mint fresh from box should be this quality. It would be not hard to prove that in court. Forget curled, this one came out smudged. This one's missing all the red ink. This card is defective and worth less. I'm going to file a class action lawsuit because it turns out 5 to 10% of the cards are smudged. Which, I mean, if you're looking at my Oath of the Gatewatch order of about $5,000 to $8,000 worth, 1/3 of the uncommons had a printing flaw. I mean, nobody's going to go in front of a judge for a 1 in 10,000 error. That's an acceptable amount. But 1 in 3, I think it's pretty safe to say that it was implied that 1 in 3 would not be defective and that they have provable value. Also, just to absolutely cover their ass, because they are selling the playability, and you could say, well, this one's not playable because it's not legible, they have a swap program where you can send them misprints and they'll send you proper versions. I believe they call it the Legally Cover Your Ass Department, and it's part of the Don't Sue Us program. So anyway, that's the entire legal background of why they cannot admit that anything has value. So if they take the monetary value on the open secondary, third-party market or whatever, and literally build it in, calling it the power level of a deck on Arena, that's a little close. Now, if they thought it would just remain a secret, nobody would ever figure it out, nobody would decompile the code, and nobody would spy on the, network traffic, depending upon how they're doing it, and so who cares? Or they thought, well, it's close, but it's not close enough. We're just using it for information purposes. Paper and digital are different. It's just a reference. It's still acknowledging it. You're still using the data in a meaningful way, which implies that you think the data is real. That's the second and bigger reason why I don't think they necessarily use a dollar value of the cards to rate the total power level of the deck. But you really gotta wonder, because some of my cheapy decks that win a lot, literally like $20 decks, but that I have like a 75% win rate with, like Air Force One and Blizzard. If you don't watch my live streams, those are the names of my 2 white decks. Those decks cost next to nothing, but they're damn good. They win a lot. They tend to put me up against easier opponents than my Curse Wave, which is probably, $350 at least? Probably higher? But maybe I just win more with that one. I don't know. I mean, I still think it's heavily tied to win rate, but I really think it might be almost everything mixed together. The win rate historically of the deck, the amount of times it beat a deck better than it, so like kind of like a tier ranking system that you have as a player, but for your deck, where every time it beats a deck better than it, it ranks way up, and if it loses to a deck worse than it, it ranks way down, whereas if the deck's power level is, 66, and it loses to a 70, then they're like, oh, okay, and they maybe derank it like 1 point. I could see something like that, and then, like I said, mix it with a similarity system so that if you delete the deck and remake it from scratch or import it, that they'd be like, no, that's the same deck. But then again, if they just sheerly use the number of rares, the number of dual lands, and the number of mythics in the deck, and that's it, that would make sense, because I deleted my Cursed Wave deck and re-imported it, and they immediately put me up against people 2 ranks above me like they knew exactly what I was doing. You might as well have had Bob Ross pop up on the screen and say, "You tried to pull a sneaky on me. I know damn well what deck that is." So, I mean, that method doesn't work anymore, but, like, because I think this whole ranking system is BS and I just want to go back to 80% wins, like before the rotation, you know, I'm just saying I might be able to game it a little bit if I knew exactly how it worked, which is why I'm trying to investigate this and kind of speculate on it. So if anybody has any other additional information about how you think that it's determining the, quote, power of a deck, as they put it, or if you found, let's just call them workarounds to confuse the software, I'd love to hear about that too. Now, there is one more theory that I used to have, but I don't think that it's true from the evidence I've seen, but I might as well throw it out because it was interesting. Before I knew about the power level thing, I thought that they just had like a rock, paper, scissors table of, okay, green, blue, that's what he's playing. Don't know if it's all in Explorer, don't know if it's 100% Merfolk. Could be a mix. They don't know what it is, they just know the colors. Keep it real simple. That tends to beat, I don't know, mono green, but it tends to lose to black white. So if we want the person to lose, which, oh my gosh, I think we can all agree that sometimes Arena wants you to lose, they will put your green-blue deck up against black-white so that you'll probably lose. And it's just in general, I mean, who knows, maybe it's a really bad matchup, maybe you're not playing against vampires, you're playing against complete jank, some kind of board wipe loop nonsense with no life gain or something, and it's just a travesty and you run it over with Merfolk. But just in general with the server statistics, which they do collect these for MTGO, so hello, just use the exact same system, then okay, that could be the power level of the deck, but not really. It would just be like the power level of the matchup, not the deck, just based on just colors. So then if they were like, okay, well, his Grixis deck is 3-color and it's Grixis, that seems to win against everything. But its lowest win rate is against, you know, this, and this. So we'll just put them up against the same 3 decks over and over and over. And everybody knows that in Arena, it will put you up against the same decks over and over and over until you change decks. But now people are thinking, well, it's because of the power level of the deck. So if you have a level 45 deck, you'll go up against around level 45 decks, plus or minus, you know, a couple. So of course you're going to play the same decks over and over. You're not going to play a 90 rated deck. But if you switch to a 90 rated deck, you're going to go up against the same couple tier 1 decks. Of course, that's a completely made up example with made up numbers, but you get the idea. Well, the one thing that really heavily supported this, though, and this is why I think it's still maybe slightly valid, is, have you noticed that once in a while, you'll get matched up in like 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 7 seconds. Okay, cool, it's a popular time. You're playing at 7 p.m. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in free play, the biggest pool, it will take like 48 seconds to find an opponent, and then you get just completely obliterated. Whenever the timer goes past 20 seconds, I don't think I've ever won the game. So then it's like Arena's waiting to see, no, we need an opponent that can beat this guy. Clear as day, that's what's happening. I mean, what other explanation would there possibly be other than random chance nobody in the world hit let's matchmake right at that second, which, I mean, come on, you know how many concurrent players there are? I don't buy that for a second. So that seemed to be like, oh, he's playing black-white. Let's wait for somebody playing mono-red. And then it waits and waits and waits and waits and waits. And, oh, there's a mono-red player, and then you get stomped. That's my theory for it. I mean, it could be something else responsible, who knows? That's why this is still, it seems more like it would be just a tracked power level, but you gotta wonder, what is going on with that matchmaking timer? So it's a distant conspiracy theory. So I'm actually talking with Cinder Shadow right now on Discord as I'm recording this, and he reiterated, yes, they do seem to be getting around all of the deck deletion and deck alteration exploits that people were using, him and me included. So I think it's a similarity comparison engine that compares it to past deck lists you've had and deleted. Hi, Cinder. Everybody go sub to Cinder and post something about French toast in his comment section for literally no reason. So one of the other theories goes back to, well, me, and before the game actually came out. It wasn't even theory, it was literally me telling them, hey, why don't you do this? And it's so obvious, maybe they did, I'm not saying they listened to me, it's just that obvious. Maybe the power of your deck isn't really the power of your deck, it's the power of your pool. It's how many boosters have you opened? The end. And what I said is to keep the whales from just stomping on everybody else who has a natural disadvantage because they didn't dump $500 into the game, why not match them up instead of based on tiers or anything, just solely on how many boosters did they open? Honestly, it was a terrible idea because what if you opened 100 boosters, but you suck at deck building, or you just didn't get the cards that you need, I guess. I don't know. I mean, the game can't just assume you're good because you spent more money. I mean, just listen to that statement, duh. Oh, I've got some stories from F&M that would reiterate that point. Oh, you guys know exactly who I'm talking about, the ones who show up with a $500 deck and have no idea how to run it. Good money does not equal good player. So I think that would be a false assumption, and it would make somebody who spends money on the game get extremely mad about losing 90% of their games because that's all they're getting matched up against. But like I said, it could be a partial factor, because remember, everything is a mix of factors according to them. It is multiple things that go into matchmaking. But maybe they just assume, a little bit of an extra nudge that if you have a bigger total card pool because you opened more packs or redeemed more wild cards, either one or both, then, your deck theoretically should be stronger. All of your decks should be stronger. But that's more tied to, you as the player than each individual deck. So I think that one's pretty far-fetched. So really, when it comes down to what is the power level of a deck and how do they mention it, I think the only way to clear this up is any kind of statement from the devs, and I don't think they're ever going to tell us what it is. And also, like I said, there's very strong evidence that they're continuously changing it because people are deleting their decks to exploit it. In fact, we had some fun on live stream where I literally made a deck called Cheating. That was the name of the deck. It was a garbage deck with very few rares in it, and it was just bare bones Explore. So, somewhat competitive. Explore's decent. It was 16 cards away from the way I would have built it if I had unlimited wild cards. It was okay, but it was maybe 10% in common with any of the decks I've ever built in all of history. So if it was a similarity engine, it should have had no idea what that deck was, and the last time I built a completely exotic deck, I went up against the worst players with the worst decks you've ever seen for the first 5 games, and I actually ended up winning 8 in a row. Ouch. So it seems the system doesn't really know what to do with an unknown deck that it can't compare to anything, and it'll just assume the worst and put you up against a bare minimum ranked player. So I tried it live on stream, and they put me up against some pretty bad people. I ended up losing some of the games anyway because the deck kind of was, unbalanced and unreliable, but you could just tell the deck strength and the player strength of who I was up against was much, much lower than, me, I guess. Probably not the deck. The deck kind of was crap. But how would they know? I mean, there's no AI system that could look through a deck list and be like, well, that's this strong of a deck. I mean, unless you simplify it to just how many mythics are there? I mean, a human could barely do that. I mean, you can look through somebody's deck and be like, it's a pretty good deck. I think that has a pretty good chance of winning. But the amount of thought that goes into it and consideration, it really would have to be a human. So whatever this is, it has to be very simplistic. And that's why I want to know how it works. Just so I have all the information available to me. I'm not going to try to blatantly cheat. It's just I don't want to get screwed over by accidentally doing something that misrepresents the power of the deck. And everybody's sick of getting 3 losses in a row. That always pisses me off. Well, especially with brand new decks. I'm like, what the hell are they putting me up against these people with? This is clearly a weaker deck. If I knew what's going on and I thought, well, this is a complete jank mono blue deck, but I've got Tempest Djinn and this and that and this Saga and this Planeswalker, I guess the system thinks based on rarity that this is a better deck than it is. Oh, okay. At least then I would know not to do that and not to spend my wild cards on it. You know what I mean? At least I could take some basic preventative measures to have the system assume something incorrect about my decks. So other theories, just super lightning round, how quickly your deck wins. When your deck does win, how many rounds does it take? Really bad way to measure it, kind of. Because control decks are stronger than blitz decks, but they would look worse because they win slower. Number of creatures killed. Not great, maybe your deck doesn't do that. Number of spells countered, number of cards sent to the graveyard, or a total between all 3. Would that imply the power level? Maybe. Would you mix that with how many turns it took to win? Maybe. I don't think it gives you the whole picture, but it could be a contributing factor. How long you've owned the deck, the number of events that you've submitted them to, how it did in an actual tournament where the rankings are completely different. Or not the rankings, the matchmaking is completely different. How many coins you have won historically with the deck, how many times you played the deck compared to your other decks. Regardless of a win or loss, just how often do you play it? Because that would imply that it's a better deck. Unless you enjoy playing with worse decks. I don't know, maybe. I mean, I play some just for fun. That's a thing. So all of these factors at the end here are extremely inaccurate, but they could be contributing factors. So what if it's everything I said in this entire video mixed together? If you think about it, that would be the most accurate. Number of rares, number of mythics, win rate, how often you play with it, how it does in events, how many coins you won, and the price of the cards in it. And the win-loss ratio of the deck. and its color advantage. Take all those, mix it together, but my gosh, you would have a pretty darn accurate power level for the deck. So honestly, the less of these that it considers, the worse it would get. So what do you think? Like I said, do you have any research? Do you have any theories? Have you tried this on your own? Do you have just an inclination that maybe when you did this and you did that, it kind of leaned one way or the other, so you got a little suspicion? Share any information you have down in the comment section. But regardless, thanks for watching. I know this is a very important a video for anybody who plays Arena, so feel free to share this with your friends on social media or whatever, because I'm sure if they're into like intricacies and highly competitive Magic and play Arena for like hours a day, I think they'd find this video fascinating. I know I had a fascinating time researching it, talking to people about it, and, you know, exploring all the different options, but at the end of the day, I have a very negative view of Arena right now. I don't like it. I just think it's unfair, and honestly, with all this, okay, who am I getting matched up against? I can work around it. I can deal with it, however inaccurate or unfair it is. What I can't deal with is the mana clumping and the card clumping. That shuffler is the worst damn thing I've seen in my life. I don't know if it's purposely rigged or accidentally rigged. At this point, I don't care. Oh my God, Wizards, put in one of those quantum photon splitting mirror 50-50 flawless card things. It's literally a PCI card that just generates random numbers flawlessly. Install some of those in your servers and use that. I think they're legit under $1,000 a piece. I mean, come on. Using milliseconds off the clock, well, welcome to 1994. That's not good enough anymore, okay? Just for laughs, just in the live stream today, where I drew 2 lands over, I think it was 20 turns, and I did the math. There's a 99.88% chance that that would never happen. And that was coming off of a game with the same exact deck where I drew, I think it was 11 lands out of like 25, and that was, there's only 19 in the deck. That's unlikely. And then there was one where either me or my opponent, one of the two, drew all 4 copies of a card within the first 2 turns. And I believe that was a 0.3% chance of happening, and multiply it by about roughly 10 if it was a flawless 4-4-4-4-4-4-4 deck, and you just say, well, it could have been any of the cards getting matched up, because then, well, actually, no, then the first one wouldn't be considered. That's actually a little bit higher prevalence than you would think. But still, like, stupidly low, like under 5% low. And yet it keeps happening game after game after game after game after game. So yes, the shuffler is what they need to fix and stop either accidentally or purposely rigging, because the game's unplayable. It is just quite simply not Magic, not random. It's completely unplayable in the current state. So I don't give a crap what happens to matchmaking or what made up number, power, level, over 9,000 bullshit you have assigned to my decks. I don't care. Just shuffle the damn cards correctly. That is what's really wrong with Arena right now. Oh, no, don't read that article by MTG Tracker or whatever the hell it was. They tried to explain why people are just paranoid and it's wrong, but the entire mathematical basis for what they're saying was wrong about 10 different ways. So the whole article was bullshit, and for all we know, they made up the data anyway. I mean, I literally proved it live on stream. Like, what else do you want? A sample size of 2 is just fine if it's supposed to be a 1 in 3,000 shot, and we just saw it happen twice. Oh, don't even get me started on the coin flip to see who goes first. That thing is a disgrace. Yeah, fix that, Wizards. That would be nice. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you guys next video.